We're redoing it, but I think it was 28 years old. Really? Yeah, no, it's ago. As you know, the office, they have to double sheet. I had never like playing. Now they can do.
And you've been.
Stack and literally 2 years. We could get a.
So, yeah, it was like current, $64.
That was a lot of money. Yeah. Most of our houses are like, $104, so if you want to know. I got that.
At least,
They're all. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody ready? Gentlemen? Lights are on. Here we go. Here we go, guys. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our April 8th Portsmouth Town Council meeting. Before we begin, I just want to go through the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency, there's 2 doors on your left, another one at the beginning of council, at the front of council chambers. We would exit the building, cross Middle Road to the school administration building and await further instruction. If we could all now stand for our Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women serving in harm's way. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay. A little bit more housekeeping. We are live streaming via Zoom. For those of you that are participating remotely, if it's Zoom, there's an icon for you to raise your hand. If you're calling in on your phone, it's *6 will mute and unmute your phone, and *9 will indicate that you have a question.
Other way around.
Other way around. *6 to mute and unmute.
Yeah, sorry.
And *9 will indicate you have a question. Okay. All right. For any, if you are going to participate in person tonight or remotely, please state your name and address for the town clerk. And with that, we will begin with our roll call.
Mr. Katzman.
Here.
Ms. Abbott. Here. Mr. Gleason.
Here.
Mr. Hamilton.
Here.
Mr. Levesque.
Here.
Dr. Ryan.
Here.
Mr. Aguirre.
Here. Okay, moving on to the president's executive summary. Prior to tonight's council meeting, there was an executive session under Rhode Island General Law 4246 5A2 pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation. 1 vote was taken during that session, and that vote was 7-0. That concludes the executive summary. And we will move on to our consent agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we'll be sitting as the Board of License Commissioners.
Mr. President, move that all of the requests for federal license be approved as presented.
Seconded.
there's peddler entertainment, there's two peddler entertainment and a Vicular license. It's a hard tongue twister. So there's a motion to approve.
You're including the entertainment license and the victual
Yeah,
license?
please,
Yes,
vote.
yes.
Yeah.
That is the motion on the
Mark
table.
seconded it.
Mark second.
I did.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Motion to adjourn as the Board of License Commissioners.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have tax voucher 2024-04-08-01.
Move they be approved as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And we will move on to our town administrator's report. Mr. Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. Bid responses to the curbside collection RFP were opened on Thursday, March 28th. We received four responses. Waste Management of Rhode Island, Mega MTG Disposal, Republic Services, and Waste Zero Solutions. Our consultant and staff are now reviewing the proposals and tabulating the responses. We will be prepared to review the results and make a recommendation to the council at the May 13th council meeting. Subject to council direction, we will then be prepared to operate two distinct enterprise fund operations, one for the Headley Street transfer station and one for curbside collection. With respect to the fiscal year 25 budget, my proposed budget for FY 25 was completed and distributed to the council on March 28th, and posted to the town's website. A budget overview brief and a discussion of revenues will be held at the April 22nd town council meeting. And in the remainder of the week, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th, if necessary, will be devoted to the discussion of the remaining budget. With respect to the Prudence Island Transport, the ferry repairs, work on the ferry landings in Bristol and Prudence Island remain on track to be completed this summer. The bulk of the work will be completed by late spring. The schedule has been modified, however, to account for long lead times in material production and delivery, but this will have no effect on ferry operations. Materials for the timbers and the shiv replacement in Prudence are expected later this month, and the remaining work in Bristol will resume once materials are manufactured and delivered. We had a visit by Congressman Gabe Amo to Town Hall. He visited staff last Friday. This was an informal visit where department heads were able to introduce themselves and participate in a discussion on current issues and community priorities. And I thank Vice President Katzman, who was present and represented the council. I'd like to lastly then thank DPW for helping run the e-waste collection, which was recently held at the high school on March 30th. Our next recycling event will be a shredding event on May 4th at Clements Market from 9 in the morning till noon. And this event, however, will be limited to Portsmouth residents only, and there will be a 3-box limit per person. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Okay, I think our next, we're going to move on to new business. I just want to state that for these first two items, I will be recusing myself, and Mr. Katzman will take over. So with that, I'll just gonna step outside. And I'm gonna.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item of new business is a proclamation, request approval of resolution endorsing the 2023 Ride Island Bike Plan as a guiding document in the planning of transportation-related infrastructure for Portsmouth. Councilmember Abbott.
Thank you. I think rather than reading the resolution to all of you, I will just start by reading the first couple paragraphs of the plan that I'm proposing that we endorse as one of our planning documents. So what is Ride Island? Aquinic Island, Rhode Island is the perfect scale for a cohesive bicycle network. At 5 miles wide by 15 miles long, this compact and relatively flat island includes many nearby destinations. Out of all the trips that begin and end on Aquidneck Island, 80% are 44 miles or less, and more than 50% are 2 miles or less. Unfortunately, the potential for active transportation on Aquidneck Island is not being realized today because there are very few places to safely ride a bike, and there are few walkable neighborhoods on the island. The Aquidneck Island Bicycle Network Implementation Plan, branded as Ride Island, seeks to change this by creating an island-wide network of paths for walking and biking. Ride Island will also unite previously conducted plans, studies, and projects intended to actualize an island-wide bicycle network, address gaps in previous work, and incorporate additional transportation data. So, Ride Island is a planning document that was developed under the guidance of a few different organizations. It had participation from all the communities on Aquidneck Island. For Portsmouth, I sat on the committee that participated. Representative Cortland and Senator Ujifuza also participated. Leah, our town planner, was involved. So it was a pretty robust community effort that looked at all the different transportation planning documents that have been done over the last couple decades, I guess, and tried to bring them all together into one cohesive document that outlines a rough game plan for how to implement a island-wide bicycle network. It breaks it down into separate projects, allowing us to kind of take baby steps toward the ultimate goal. And I feel very strongly that this is one of the important tools needed for us to be able to even start talking about getting funding for some of these projects. Because when you apply for funding, this is the kind of planning document that you need to kind of refer back to and demonstrate how it contributes to the greater version. So we have somebody from Bike Newport here. Did you want to speak to it at all? And yeah, if anybody has any questions, Barry is here from Bike Newport. They kind of led the charge with Ride Island, and she's happy to answer any questions. But the resolution is intended to just provide our endorsement and support of the document as a planning document, and will allow our town planner to incorporate it into our overall transportation planning for the town. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Councilmember Abbott. Any questions from council members? But members of the public?
Larry Fitzmaurice, 50 Kristen Court. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Don't oppose bike paths or walking paths, but I think that the resolution that is presented in this agenda item is starting to go down the path of moving authority to make policy to private organizations. And I think the council would recognize that. I think that in the final analysis, we elect the council to make policy, and we don't allow in our charter to delegate policy to private organizations. So I think that while we may want to take guidance, we don't want to make it a part of our formal decision processes inside our government. But guidance to the planning department should come from council, decided in open session. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Hi, I'm Barry Freeman. I'm the Executive Director of Bike Newport, and thank you for considering this. Ride Island is an initiative that's spearheaded by 4 organizations: Bike Newport, Grow Smart Rhode Island, Tool Design Group, and the Van Buren Charitable Foundation. What we did was, as Councilor Abbott, started to present, was to go back through all of the documents, all of the accepted reports, the comprehensive land use reports for all 3 municipalities, the transportation improvement plan, the transportation, the comprehensive transportation management plan, the bike mobility plan, the transit plan, the North End Development Plan in Newport, multiple plans that have been informed by the municipalities and by the residents, and pulled it all out together. And if you can imagine taking all of the maps of all of the routes and ideas that have been discussed over the years and layering them up and then shining a light through it and seeing where the concentration of discussions were, where the priorities were, where people's primary destinations were, and pulled it all together into one plan. You can see where it's connected, you can see where the hotspots are, you can see where there are gaps, and you can see where there's consistency through the years. That's the substance behind the plan, Ride Island, which is a network around the island. The initiative of Ride Island brings together a lot of different expertise that isn't necessarily available at the municipalities due to bandwidth or funding or research potential or otherwise, and creates a program that is responsive to the municipalities and the Navy. By the way, it's really the four that get together. So when we gather all of the planners together for them to inform one another so that things aren't happening in silos, so that Middletown and Portsmouth and Newport and the Navy all know what each other are doing, it becomes connected, access is optimized, and funding is optimized because one of the services of the Ride Island Initiative is to track the funding opportunities and to queue up the municipalities to apply for those funds as they wish them, and even to help with the grant writing. So there's just an enormous amount of support to the municipalities to be able to optimize and capture the opportunities that are available, especially with all of the federal attention to transportation right now and active transportation. So it's really a support. There's certainly nothing dictating anybody's requirements. It is support. And I think that what we've experienced or what the planners have experienced in working together, sifting through and identifying which of the 19 identified priority projects are what folks want to work on first together. That's the beauty of Ride Island. So there's a lot of resources that are available through it, a lot of skill sets that are available that the municipalities don't have themselves. And by voicing an endorsement of this approach, which is multi-municipal and collaborative, we hope to make progress and be able to capture some of the support that's available out there for the island.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think that is you hit the nail on the head, and the most important piece of it is Ride Island really kind of functions as a facilitator of sorts to just help bring our communities together across Aquidneck Island. We're never going to make any progress on this working in different silos. So we do have to find better ways of working together and figuring out where our priorities align. And then ultimately the decision of which projects to move forward and which projects to request funding for is going to come down to a conversation between our town planner, our town administrator, and us here in the council.
Thank you.
I have a question for either of you. Took the time to read this report, and I don't know if my colleagues have read it, or it's been around since August of 23, but we're just seeing it now for whatever reason. And we've never really discussed this as a council. So, you know, I happen to live in a neighborhood where it's very easy to bike. So I can appreciate there are spots that are difficult to bike. And I know people that are biking around, you know, the island as they want to. You know, some people will just get on East Main or West Main Road. That's the way they are. I certainly wouldn't endorse it the way it is now. What I saw in the report that interests me rather than East Main and West Main Road, because I just think that they are bad areas to target. And that's my biggest concern about this report, is the Jepson lanes, the middle roads, the roads that go east to west among West Main and East Main. No matter what we do with this report, the main thing that we're focusing on is traffic calming devices and separation, pretty much, especially on the major roadways. What are examples of traffic calming for all this, you know, these smaller roads around town? I mean, the report talks about the methods of employing them, but it doesn't say what they are.
So you mentioned separation. I mean, that's the ultimate
big
goal, is to be able to separate bicycles, pedestrians, and cars. there's a process to get there. And that is the ultimate goal. There are candidate solutions to get there. One of the things that Rhode Island is doing, by the way, in the next couple of weeks is taking a couple dozen decision makers and influencers up to Cambridge. And there are like 3 different opportunities in advance of that to queue people up to optimize that experience. But people from here, including, I believe, 3 people from Portsmouth, will be joining this group to experience the candidate solutions so that we have a better understanding of what these are when we do come forward to discuss them. We understand we've seen them in action. So it's difficult to give you a specific answer, but in the bike mobility plan that informed this, which was adopted by the state in 2020, there's an entire section about the candidate solutions, and the solution depends on the road. What we're looking to do is get more people biking and walking to common destinations, to priority destinations. This isn't about recreation. We want people to be able to recreate, to be able to get in their cars and take their bikes to a place where they can ride separated from cars. But we also need to make it possible to get to school and to the market and to our priority destinations. Right now, people who are confident and are used to riding in the road with cars, we have an obligation to help get them out of harm's way wherever possible. But that's not getting us new people biking. We're not going to get new people biking and start reducing the number of cars and the carbon emissions and those priorities that we also have to address. That's not going to happen until we have full separation. People who don't ride because they're scared are not going to start riding when we put down a bike lane. And we're not doing any service to raising the number of people who bike by doing that, but we are doing a service to those who are on the road, who depend on bikes or want to bike and need the beginnings of improved infrastructure. Those are going to be less separated solutions until we can get to the more, but we have to work our way up to this. I mean, to start now because there are a lot of people who do want to bike, and we have to address those issues, help them be safer. This is really all about safety, ultimately. Thank you.
Mr. Ryan? Dr.
Yeah,
Ryan?
thank you. Yeah, I think Ms. Freeman made an important point. We're not just talking about recreation. I know people whose preferred commuter vehicle is their bicycle. I used to work with a guy who worked at Naval Underwater Weapons Center who lived in Middletown and had to take a circuitous route. I had a summer job over there because it was a long time ago, and I would have to traverse East and West Main Road, which even then was a little bit frightening. But the dimension, oh yeah, shut up. Anyway, not that old. But again, being able to use a bicycle in that fashion requires the involvement of all 3 communities in the island. Many people live in one town and work in another. And right now, the road system is just not set up to accommodate them. And it really, again, the island is small enough that it really should be. So I think including a document that's been so heavily researched by people who have the time and the interest to do it and make that information available to our planning department is quite sensible. It's work we don't have to do ourselves. We're not saying that Ms. Freeman should be in charge of our road construction, but we should at least, I think, use the information that's been gathered in considering how to, how to plan for the future. So I'm definitely in favor of this. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Levesque?
One, I want to welcome the Honorable Senator De Palma. Good to see you again. We are, in many respects, I think, on kind of a point in time that, to my mind, is very significant. There's a lot of work going to be done on East Main Road from Middletown to Portsmouth. And we can be satisfied with the status quo, which we've been complaining about for about 40 years. Or we can start looking to a future that actually involves more intermodal, allows a little bit more green, allows a little bit more aesthetic, allows a little bit more variety. And I believe that bike path, while I haven't been on a bike on about 10 years at least, it's one of the ways that we evolve. And I think that we need to coordinate with our colleagues in Newport and Portsmouth and with the people and the business community in order to make sure that the pathway from what we always used to refer to as 2 Mile Corner to the Bank Newport here in Portsmouth can become as attractive and as safe and as viable as possible. And this, I think, is a very important step towards that. Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton.
Just a few quick comments on this. It pulls together a lot of information of plans and ideas that have been put forward in the past. But it leaves out a lot of information that should have been included in a lot of these reports, such as using and creating a rail trail instead of forcing people up onto West Main Road. Potentially, if you've been around Portsmouth recently, especially behind Mr. Gleason's house, we have a great new trail that's being essentially produced by clear cutting all of the power lines. There would be a great trail that could go right underneath the power lines that exist in an easement that already exists. East Main Road and West Main Road, I don't care what we do, are never going to be safe for bicycles. We need to get people as far off those roads as possible. Not quite as old as Dr. Ryan, but I used to have a paper route that went back and forth East Main Road. I would not put a kid anywhere near that today. I would like to see more things incorporated in this, not just what currently exists in current studies. Building a shared bike path down East Main Road from Turnpike to Middletown is going to involve a lot of road taking, property taking, because there's not enough room to do it now. So I think it would be better to look at other options rather than just relying on the current crop of reports that we have. Next year, when there is the Park Avenue bike ride, I am going to insist that you ride the bike down Park Avenue. Because it was fun.
That is planned for.
I had a nice bottle of water with this room.
Top of the hill. Yeah.
I started at my house, biked all the way down to Park Avenue, all the way down to the community hall and back, and then up Boyd's Lane, which was really not any fun.
And that's a wonderful
cars.
example of what's possible when you're not riding with cars.
Yeah,
And,
it is.
And then.
But there's a lot of information that I think should be included in this report that's not there.
I don't think a plan is stagnant. I think that an initiative is
Understood.
ongoing. So it's an excellent point and perhaps an opportunity to reiterate that it's an initiative that is working very hard at all times. Actually, we just submitted 2 congressional appropriations grants to connect and improve access.
Specifically, where are you going to take people in Cambridge? Are you going to take them down the bike trail that goes to Cambridge Park, or are you going to take them down Mass Avenue where people almost get killed in that bike lane?
We're taking people to really excellent urban, Inman Square, I know is a focus. And if you'd like to join us, I would love for you to do that.
I spend too much time in Cambridge. That's why I'm asking the question. It's a lot of great off the road trails for recreation and for,
Yes, this
commuting.
is definitely a trip to see urban application.
yeah.
Can I just jump in for a second? I think one piece that I think Barry did say, but is probably worth reiterating, is that I think anybody who wants to ride a bike around, if you ask them, the ultimate goal or dream is a separate dedicated bike path. And I would love to see that in my lifetime on Aquidneck Island. But there are a lot of other steps toward that provide improvements for the people that are already using these modes of transportation. And whether we're not saying we want to have, thousands of people riding their bikes up and down a shoulder on East Main Road. I don't think that's the
It won't
ultimate
happen.
vision. Because it won't happen.
It won't
But
happen.
whether we say so or not, there are people that need to walk and ride buses off of East Main Road. And I think providing safety for those folks is also a very important goal.
And I think if I could just reiterate that the expertise from the different organizations that contribute to Ride Island is engineering, it's legislative, it's funding, it's community building and awareness. There's a lot of expertise that's feeding in, that's very cross-supportive. And for the most part, the function of Ride Island, which gets articulated in a plan, is to prepare the municipalities or the individuals or the staff people or the residents to present the ideas with preempting or already prepared to answer the questions that can be anticipated. Where has this been done before? What did it look like? What would it cost? You know, what were the results of that? So that, yeah.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think actually one of our staff people.
Yeah,
has been
yes, thank you.
looked
Mr.
Thank you.
at
That
Friedman.
Add her voice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Friedman, and Ms. Hitchin, who had, you're standing there for a reason, I imagine.
I just want to speak that the RIDE plan is a guiding document. We don't have to, there's no specific goals, policies, and actions like a comprehensive community plan. And I do want to say that Barry from Bike Newport has worked with Tool Design, which is an expert. And we're gearing up, Barry didn't mention Ride Island 2.0. What she has been representing is 1.0, and we're gearing up to do 2.0. And we're excited. I think I can speak regionally with Middletown and Newport to work with Tool Design again and Barry to explore 2.0 a little bit more in-depthly. And she has provided the capacity that we simply don't have here on the island. So I would, definitely support the resolution, and we can take more of a deeper dive into the plan. It's a guiding document.
Thank you, Ms. Hitchin. Is there a motion on the floor? No. Mr. Levesque,
I'd like to make a motion that we actually.
you gotta turn on your mic. Turn on your mic, there you go.
That we incorporate, that we in fact approve of the resolution and ask that it be produced in Portsmouth's name, that we join the joint letter of support, and that we receive and place on file the implementation plan, all in document 1 or item 1.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Green?
Tom Grieve, 110 Thayer Drive. There is one thing that does not seem to have been considered tonight or in Ride Island. I'm not against bike paths either, but there is a new paradigm in bike riding, and it's called e-bikes, that are a real problem. Having spent a lot of time in Newport, I can tell you that bicycles are changing to e-bikes. People aren't pedaling. These bikes go 20, 30 miles an hour, and they are very dangerous. Dangerous 2 ways. 1, to pedestrians in Newport. 2, to themselves. I've had them come out in front of me in cars. I had one going the wrong way on Spring Street. When I was looking for vehicles coming the other way, I almost hit him. E-bikes are a real problem that need to be considered in any plan. They need to be segregated from bicycles and pedestrians.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Any other comments?
No, I just say I completely agree. And if we get to the point in that level of detail in planning a bike facility or path, I think that'll be a great problem to have.
I think actually the legislature is considering a measure to exclude e-bikes from bike trails.
Mr. Levesque.
BCD bikes, who cares? Anyway, I do believe if you build it, they will come. I do believe that actually I've been behind somebody on East Main Road trying to negotiate in a bicycle, and everybody acts like an idiot because they have no idea what a bike is doing there on any number of times. So I actually don't believe that having a lane for them would slow anything down, because you try to pull out into the left lane and people just don't have any clue what you're doing, or they get onto the bike and realize they have to pull out. Having it part of the plan. I was involved in the legislature back in the 1990s, trying to require that all state projects would have, if possible, incorporate a bike lane in its design. And I thought that was one of the best ideas we came from. People will continue to complain about East Main Road. But my own belief, and I have absolutely no engineering or traffic background to justify that, that if we had a 3-lane road like we have going from Bank Newport down to Chase Road, and if we manage to eliminate some of the cuts in East Main Road, which I don't know if we'll ever do, but even if we don't, the problem driving down East Main Road is that there's some kid coming out of Sandy Point in a late model Mercedes that I will never be able to afford, who doesn't have a clue how to drive, okay? And he's edging out on me, all right? And I'm trying to pull out. If we had, in fact, the 3-lane with the right lane and left lane type of turn, that could be accommodated by a little adjust out. And I believe, quite frankly, we could have a bike lane. Some people say, oh, it's too much traffic for that. Well, people will adjust, but I'm tired of saying we can't do something because it may turn out to be a problem when we are already in the midst of a problem. And one last thing I will say to you, Mr. Hamilton, I believe 100% in rail, 100%. And I talked to the Department of Transportation. You know the problem with the rail right now? Do you remember that little bridge they tore down? Okay, that was on a level a bridge could come, that a train could come through, okay? And now they tell me, we can't make the rise. And I say to them, guess what?
I think we're going off.
They went
Yeah.
over the damn Rocky Mountain.
Can we-
right now.
I'd like
Can
to
we move
talk-
the
keep it
question?
back to-
We'll get back to,
Well, before
I wasn't referring to having new trains. I'm referring to putting a bike path on the rail trail.
Ms.
right.
Abbott,
Oh,
outside of the topic, can we get
Yeah,
back to
if
the
I
topic
have
at
two
hand,
of my
please?
colleagues.
I would like to call to order, I'd like to call to order back to, there's a motion on the
Mr.
floor.
Mr. Vice President,
Mr. Gleason,
I'd like to make some comments, please.
sure. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay,
TV.
Mr. Gleason,
Okay.
please go ahead and take. the
So,
call on my-
The last meeting we had was about the short-term rentals and at the last meeting, I said to Danielle, and Keith was there with me, how would you like to work on getting something completed as far as a bike path goes? And we talked a little bit about it. I said, let me know. I'd like to see something that gets done that we talked about 10 years ago. And it's in the, what's the word for it?
Comprehensive community plan.
It's not, it's the Rhode Island's
The tip.
Oh, tip.
the tip. It's in the tip for this year, I believe. Keith talked about, it'd be nice to do something along the railroad track, not on the track, to the side of it. We never talked about it, and lo and behold, this gets presented to us. I've read the report as best I can. As Mr. Hamilton said, it's not comprehensive enough for me. I think it's obligating us to say, yes, this plan promotes a road diet, therefore we in Portsmouth are endorsing a road diet, which is something I would not do myself. Couple of comments I'd like to make about the report in general. On the mission statement, I think you may have said some of this, but I'll repeat it. The mission of Ride Island is to make Aquidneck Island one of the most bike-friendly and walkable places in the United States. The connected network of protected paths will help achieve common local municipal goals while simultaneously preserving the island way of life, boosting the economy, enabling the community to respond to the challenges of dynamic and disruptive change. We as a town should have a conversation about that, because I don't know how that's all going to occur. Just me. As such, the vision for Aquidneck Island is that people will choose to bike and walk for most short trips, direct, intuitive, and inviting routes that are separated from traffic. And that's the buzzword here, separated from traffic. That's what we need forever, to make biking safe anywhere, whether it be Union Street, Middle Road, or especially East and West Main Road. The plan that we're endorsing here has various, suggestions on how to do a road diet and how to extend our road from 38 feet to 48 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet, whatever it may be, with different scenarios. A major project for each town to digest, let alone Rhode Island Department of Transportation. So I think the plan, which is dated August 23, is rushing forth with a resolution with data recently reported to Middletown by VHB, and it doesn't match the data reported by VHB to Portsmouth. There's no data in this report from VHB per se. The town of Middletown received a letter from VHB, and I first found out about it from speaking to Mr. Rayner and Leah Hitchens. I contacted them about the letter I had read that they're looking at a potential road diet on 2-mile stretch of Middletown roads. So basically, we had already paid VHB at one point to tell us that East Main Road is not suitable for a
Are we
road diet.
blurring, are we blurring
Excuse
this agenda item with the next agenda item?
Talking about
There's,
the next
this,
one.
they're still in the same report.
Okay.
It's in there. By
I'm sorry to
obligating us
interrupt.
to this
I'm sorry to
report,
interrupt.
it's okay. By obligating us to this report, we're saying we're endorsing the concept laid out in here for a road diet, essentially. We can.
We're gonna go page by page.
Essentially,
No,
excuse me, sir, just,
let Mr. Gleason finish, please.
so, I would like to mention some things in this report. The other section that I would like to suggest is that if you look at page 14, we compare Quinnic Island with Hilton Head and Nantucket. While they are comparable in length and width, area as well, the population of Aquinic is 60,000 year-round. Hilton Head is 40,000, Nantucket is 14,000. The annual visitors to Aquinic is 3.5 million, Hilton Head 2.5 million, and 200,000 to Nantucket. I don't know if that's the right comparison. It would be great if we get to that point, but what I'm saying is it's going to be a complex process to do so. This doesn't get us there, but it's saying to us, when we pass this resolution to the rest of the state, and we pass it on, this is the plan of the town of Portsmouth that's going to make bike safety and practical in our town.
If I may, Mr.
Okay.
Gleason,
One more thing.
I'm in the position of chair, which means I'm not supposed to make motions. But I actually do have an amendment I would like to propose to the resolution, which may address some of your concerns. Because I would like to,
Chair can't make an amendment.
I understand that. I am going to explain what I would like, Mr. Levesque. And then leave it up to a fellow council member to either make a motion or not. So I will give you back the floor if after we have this discussion, your issues are not addressed. My own thoughts on it and what I've heard from others in terms of any concerns related to it have to do with either it's incomplete or it might be in some way overriding of our comprehensive community plan or tie our hands in other ways. And yet I support in broad strokes what what the Ride Island Bike Plan lays out in concept. The resolution reads, the town council does hereby indicate our endorsement of and commitment to the use of the Ride Island Bike Plan. I would like to insert at that point the following words. So commitment to the use of the Rhode Island Bike Plan as an advisory resource for guidance in the planning and development. This is picking up the resolution in the planning and redevelopment of transportation related to infrastructure improvements in the town of Portsmouth. Then I would add at the end of that sentence, where consistent with the comprehensive community plan and town ordinances. And the reason I want to add that at the end is the comprehensive community plan is a large document that took a great deal of effort and input to produce. And I don't want to represent to the public that I've read this, what is it, 78-page document? and then went back to the comprehensive community plan and read all of that too, that might apply, and say, I'm confident that they harmonize and there's no conflict. So rather than having to go back and reread all of that and have our town planner undertake that, to simply say that we commit to the use of the plan as an advisory resource for guidance where consistent with the comprehensive community plan and town ordinances. With that change, I will be happy to support this motion if a fellow council member would make that motion to make those changes. Because I can.
I honestly, I think I'll move as such. I think the intention of the resolution remains intact.
Exactly.
Therefore, I think the language is fine.
I'll second it with a slight amendment to, so that after where it says in the town of Portsmouth, can we also include and the greater Aquidneck Island communities? Because I don't want to see I don't know if Newport or Middletown have passed a resolution similar to this as of yet, if they're going to. But I don't want to see the town of Portsmouth go forward and trying to do good things in terms of getting bike and pedestrian traffic, only to be a road to nowhere. And it's stop at the Middletown town line or stop at the Newport. I hope it doesn't happen, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole goal. of
I
the-
understand, but if we
Plan.
put together a resolution that doesn't help us connect with the other two
It is
communities.
called Ride Island, not
Right,
Ride
I
Portsmouth.
understand.
Yeah,
Barry, can you
we-
speak to this? I believe the same resolution is going to be,
I'm sorry, but because we're in a public
That's okay, but
meeting with recording. if you
She
need
doesn't have
speak
to,
up-
that's okay. I just,
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
we've done a lot of things in the past where we've tried to incorporate Newport, Middletown and Portsmouth into doing things together. And they always seem to just go away and die in the wind.
I think this proposal is brilliant, and we will share the same language with the other municipalities who all have the same language that they're working from. So it'd be very nice if we end up with the same resolution from all three.
So
So I'd be
Mr.
happy to
Hamilton, you
pass on the
added-
same language.
After the words town of Portsmouth, you added and Aquidneck Island
In the greater Aquidneck Island community.
and with that, I'm
I-
gonna give this to the clerk when we're done.
I could put in the greater Rhode Island community, but since we changed the Providence Plantations, I can't say that anymore.
is
But
that
initials.
properly motioned and seconded?
We have a motion as.
As per
adjunct.
usual, the town clerk is,
Trying
Yes.
to keep.
I'm
he
comfortable
he
with
will
that.
make,
Okay.
Can you get
and-
bias again one time? Did you write it down?
Yes, I did. I could
May I
read it if
just-
you'd like.
Play it back.
From the
I
top.
would point out that our planner came up and supported this. The
Yes.
planner being the person who is most directed to be the one who preserves the integrity of our comprehensive plan. No, I feel like I'm in the movie Life of Brian, and where the, Trudeau defense fund. And we're defending somebody's right to have a child even though they're a man. All right, give me a break. It's a simple resolution, a simple letter. It said directly what it's supposed to say. I don't think we need to dance around it. I don't even care really. The person who brought it to us wants it, fine.
It doesn't hurt, Chuck. I think
Thank
it reinforces the message and it still carries the,
Do what you want, good. Your bill.
This is the sausage making.
Aye.
Dr. Ryan, you had a comment?
No, I
No.
was just throwing.
We still have someone online
Right.
and Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Mason, I interrupted you.
no, he wanted you to reread the.
Oh, yes,
motion.
okay. So where we've landed as far as the cumulative motions is that it would say, be it resolved that the town council does hereby indicate our endorsement of and commitment to the use of the Ride Island Bike Plan as an advisory resource for guidance in the planning and redevelopment of transportation-related infrastructure improvements in the town of Portsmouth and the greater Aquidneck Island communities where consistent with the comprehensive community plan and town ordinances. Did you?
Thanks. I'll just hold my comments.
Okay,
for the
and
next-
then we have a member of the public online who wanted to speak.
Hi. My name's Emily Skian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I live at 40 Cutler Court in Portsmouth. And my husband and I, Chris Skian, we have commuted by bike in many places we've lived, including New York, Washington, DC, Yokosuka, Japan. And when we moved here, commuting to Newport Hospital and Newark was not feasible, even though we assumed buying in Portsmouth would allow that. We're raising two children who are very competent on their bike and would love, some independence to be able to safely bike, but it's just a very challenging island. So I support this resolution and know many other young families who do as well. This time is hard for people to testify, but I have heard a lot of support for this plan. And I do see, the long-term goal being a dedicated bike lane like the rail trail. But in the meantime, I've seen people biking. We live near a nursery, so a lot of workers bike to the nursery. And I've also seen pedestrians getting off the bus in a pretty unsafe situation that I feel like this dedicated plan would help ensure safety.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkebetty. Member
Thank you, Emily.
Skian. Any further comment?
I would just second that. As a parent, I would love if there was somewhere safe my children could bike on this island, but there unfortunately is not.
I'm at Ben's point.
Yeah.
With no further comment being all set here, there is a motion. If
There's an amendment to the motion
there's an
first.
amendment to the motion first, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The motion now as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Abbott, don't get too comfortable because you're next. New business item number 2.
All right, this one, I will let Barry do most of the presentation, but I do just want to kind of set the stage a little bit to refresh everybody's memory, because I don't think everybody was here when this first happened. So just a little trip down memory lane. I know these TIP projects for the repaving and sidewalks and everything for East Main Road have been kind of coming up and discussed in various different ways. But if we go back to 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, we had passed a resolution to look at safety on East Main Road because of the number of accidents and issues we had with the road. We know that the project is in the TIP, so this is kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to integrate improvements into that road. And so back in 2020, I don't know when we made the request, but we got the results in August of 2020. We did ask RIDOT to look at East Main Road and run the analysis on the potential of a road diet. A road diet being taking our currently configured 4-lane highway, reducing it to 2 lanes where you have 2 traffic lanes and a turning lane in the middle. RIDOT did an entire road safety assessment and presented their results with recommendations for improvements. And at that time, they said that they believed a road diet was not recommended because we were on the borderline of the traffic volume. Like it was on the high side for a road diet, and they weren't confident that it would work. After discussions, associated and tangential to Ride Island, and based on actions taken down in Middletown, it appears that there's different data that could be used to look at this, or there are aspects of traffic flow on East Main Road that perhaps weren't considered in the original analysis. So there is an argument to be made to at least ask RIDOT to take another look at it and see what they think before they go forward with the paving project. So I'll hand it over to Barry, and hopefully she can do a better job describing exactly how did we get here and where to go from here.
Thank you.
And there are some slides that were in the backup, if we could put those on the
I-
screen.
I'm actually not using the slides.
You're not?
That's-
Okay.
I'm not using the slides. If that's okay.
Thank you, Ms.
This is,
Freeman.
Thank you. The most important thing to know is that the timing for this discussion is very wise. It's informative. And there's still decisions that have to be made in Middletown, and I'm going to bring you right up to the minute with where things stand in Middletown. So first, I'm just going to give you an overview of what was presented to Middletown, and then bring you up to speed on what's happening in Middletown. Because what's happening in Middletown is going to depend on Middletown and Portsmouth together. No matter what happens on East Main Road, one thing doesn't happen and another on either side of the town line. So Middletown is going to want to know how Portsmouth feels, and Portsmouth is going to want to know what Middletown is doing. So if you look at this discussion tonight as just getting up to speed, I think that that's really the best place to be, because things are going to change over the next few days, and it's not a time to make a decision until more information is available. Is that okay as a starting point?
I think making no decision is a good start.
Okay. And getting up to speed is really helpful. This is very much about information. In fact, it's about two things. It's about safety and it's about information. And having more information ahead of time, I bore witness to your process over some other discussions related to transportation. This is a different approach. This is as much information as is possible. So basically, when I presented to Middletown back on March 4th, I was talking to them about the proposition of adding a road diet to the paving plan in Portsmouth. We all know that the configuration of East Main Road is dangerous and stressful. The road has 4 travel lanes, no turn lanes, mostly no shoulder, and side streets and driveways on both sides of the road. We know what it feels like to stop in the travel lane, in an active travel lane, and wait to make a left turn. It's scary to sit there and feel rushed. And if we're approaching someone sitting there, we're thinking about how to change lanes and how to avoid it to begin with. This scenario is one of the top causes of the 200+ crashes on East Main Road each year. Another is the weaving behavior by impatient drivers, which causes sideswipe crashes and elevates stress levels of everyone on the road. The road diet that we're talking about can alleviate stressful conditions by reducing the number of lanes and providing a center turning lane. This is what you have on the north side of Turnpike. Drivers no longer have to decide which lane to use. People turning left have a safe place to wait for a gap in traffic, and the slower constant speed in the travel lane will be far safer for everyone. So you're not crossing 2 lanes of traffic when you're coming out of a business and you're turning left. Okay, so additionally, road diets make space available. It frees up the roadbed and it makes space available for needed and improved bus stops, which were discussed. We know that there's stakes in the grass on hilly inclines with no crosswalks. It does provide a place, at least for people safely to get to and from the bus stops. It also provides for pedestrian crossings and bike lanes. This is what happens after the road diet when you free up the space. If we implement a road diet for East Main Road during the upcoming paving project, it can be a no-cost project. It's highly recommended as a priority safety measure by Federal Highway. Federal Highway defines a road diet as a roadway reconfiguration that can improve safety as it converts from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. Again, implementing the road diet at a time of resurfacing means it can take place at no cost. In the road diet guide, Federal Highway presents the data that resulting reduction in lane changes and slower, safer, more consistent speeds leads to improved safety of 19 to 47% by reducing rear end and left turn crashes that are due to get to the dedicated left turn lane. Okay, I'm going to take you to, so our ask to Middletown was to include a road diet in the East Main Road paving. This is what's happened since then. We had that meeting and then we had a second meeting.
If I could just for everyone who may not know, you said since then, when was that?
So the first meeting was on March 4th, and that's when we presented the idea of adding a road diet to the pavement plan. The next meeting was a month later. And at that meeting is the presentation that you received in your packets, which talked specifically about East Main Road in Middletown. There were a number of questions that were raised. And we've been collecting all of the questions all along from the public and from the counselors. So at the last meeting on April 15th, on April 1st, the council voted to have a public hearing on April 15th. We have been preparing since then answers to each question. Is it safe? What about the bikes? Is that going to be safe? What about diversion to West Main Road? What about the backing up of traffic and such? So RIDOT additionally set a deadline for Middletown for April 19th. By April 19th, Middletown has to decide whether they're asking or not. April 15th is the meeting and the public hearing. April 19th is the deadline. Okay. The presentation from RIDOT.
So
Ms.
on,
Levesque, go ahead.
on April 15th, Middletown is going to be considering the document we're considering tonight. Is that correct?
No,
No, that document was already presented to Middletown. That document was already presented to Middletown. Middletown Town Council has had 2 discussions about this already. On April 15th, they're having a public hearing to present the information to the public and to hear the public's concerns.
Well, I mean, I read the newspapers. The administrator in Middletown spoke out against it. 2 of the council members seemed like they did not want to pursue it. The rest of it seemed fairly ambivalent. What I'm going to suggest to this board is that if we want to get this council, is that if we want, there are always reasons to say no. If we want to get on board on this thing, I think that we should take action tonight and let Middletown know it's not pie in the sky. It is something that we can do together if we are willing to work together. Okay. If they go to April 15th, have their public hearing and vote it down, we're done.
Right.
if you're prepared to do that, I can stop here and.
I mean, I do think either we do it together or it doesn't happen, right? We're not gonna do a piece of East Main Road and then stop at the town line. That's just not a realistic.
We either hang together or hang separate.
What I would suggest is just to be aware that there's a lot more information that's coming out related to the traffic volumes, the simulations, the predictions of the impact on businesses and such. And all of, if we can pay attention to that as it comes out, we don't need to take time tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a.
Mr. Hamilton's been waiting. No,
No, it's okay.
The last thing I just want to mention is this is all working with RIDOT. This is not happening separately from RIDOT. So we're sharing information back and forth. This is a very collaborative, well-informed process that is not happening separately. That's a very important point.
And
Well,
so I think that,
so that-
no, I think that's a very important point to make. Thank you, Barry. I think what we also need to keep in mind is that as much as I value the opinion of all my colleagues sitting up here, none of us are traffic engineers. We don't design roads. Our ask, if we so choose to do so, would be to ask RIDOT to reconsider and look at it again in conjunction with Middletown as a comprehensive corridor study, which I believe is one of the comments we made when we looked at the road safety assessment, that we thought that road needed a full corridor study to figure out how to deal with it comprehensively from top to bottom. So if we do request anything, it's to ask RIDOT to look at it again and reconsider the decision from 2020
Yeah.
in conjunction with Middletown.
If I may, I'll share RIDOT's comment on that, which is if Middletown decides to do this, then they will be looking at what the limits of it should be. They're not going to be looking for it to end at the town line. They will come to Portsmouth and say, we're doing this in Middletown. We think that the limit of it should be whatever street they're naming. And they will come to Portsmouth to make that recommendation. Portsmouth doesn't need to go to them and say, wait a second, we want some of that. We want to extend into Portsmouth. RIDOT is going to make that recommendation. If that's where it goes. That's the big if. We don't know where it's going. We don't know what RIDOT is going to recommend from the new data, and we don't know what Middletown is going to do. But if this goes through, RIDOT will come to you and say, this is our recommendation for Portsmouth.
so that-
The other problem is, if I'm not mistaken, the Department of Transportation is doing one of its drop dead ideas that you have to decide by the 19th what you're doing. And it struck me that they were kind of saying, we'll begin what we were planning on doing, or you're holding it up. Okay, that's what it seemed like in the newspaper.
I think, again, in being actively involved in this, that there's very realistic information that's on the table that RIDOT is looking at, they're processing it. It's a very reasonable process, and I would fully expect from what I'm bearing witness to now, that if something needs to be, extended, it will. It's more about, one of the things that they're looking at is what are the implications on the schedule and the funding for if we do make these changes. So I think there's a holistic look at it, and we don't have to worry about having the rug pulled out under us for an April 19th deadline.
Mr.
That's my
Levesque?
impression.
Mr. Levesque?
The truth is, I don't want them to do the repaving. One of the issues is once you got a nice surface on the road, people drive faster. That's a fact. All right, you want to have more accidents on, just repave it. And if you get to the Portsmouth line and we're not on the same page, then we got a problem. So I'm going to suggest to my colleagues, we approve this. We let Middletown know we approved it. And hopefully when they get to their meeting on the 15th, the public hearing, there will always be issues. That's, we live in a world of issues, but you have to look at what you want and say, let's try and do that, not what we have, which none of us want. None of us want.
Can I take a stab at putting that more succinctly?
What's that?
Go
Ms.
ahead,
Abbott.
Len. No, go ahead.
No, well, I was gonna say, I'm not sure, listening to what I've just heard, that an action by Portsmouth is called for to approve or not approve, in that there is going to be further information coming from RIDOT and from Middletown.
On the 15th, Middletown will vote this down unless we take some action.
We do have
Yeah,
a
I'll
Middletown
back you.
counselor here who might speak to
Yeah.
what the concern was of the Middletown Council, which my impression was to get some suggestion from Portsmouth that you're paying attention, that you're in.
Yeah, I think we're not going to decide on, a road diet tonight. That's just not what the question is. But I do think it would be helpful if, as a council, we can, and I don't know what form this takes, if it's an email or a phone call from our town planner to Middletown. I don't know what the mechanism is for this, but to express our interest in supporting their request to RIDOT to reconsider the road diet and look at it comprehensively and provide recommendations for the road diet along the entire length of East Main Road based on the data, the new data being provided.
Councilwoman, I recall pretty much a motion like that when we were talking about the roundabout. And we asked the DOT if they'd be kind enough to come back and talk to us about this plan. And because we wanted to have additional information, and that's when everything went kablooey. Look, if you agree with it, pass it. And Middletown will know we passed it, and then they can roll the dice. If you don't, and you want to have a hearing, it's dead.
Well,
I'm guaranteeing you it's dead.
Yeah, my concern, and maybe you can speak to this, Barry, is that we're really not in a position and we don't get to dictate what RIDOT does with their road, frankly.
No, we make recommendations to them as they do to us.
We express to them our interest in a solution and say, please figure out how this would look for Portsmouth. And that's, I think, what we need.
I think that they'll probably.
If I may, yeah, I agree with supporting that idea. The town implemented a road diet on East Main Road, north of the Turnpike Avenue intersection, as well as Turnpike Avenue itself. And at that time, people thought it was going to be the end of the world. It's terrible. Everybody up there I've spoken to who live on it, have businesses on it, they love it. It's worked out very well. Is this stretch of East Main Road different? Maybe we'll have RIDOT weigh in on that. But I think it would be a good thing.
Yeah, I do think it's a little different from the previous question that you're referring to, Chuck, in that there isn't an existing proposal in front of us that we're either endorsing or shooting down. We're asking them to look at it again.
Historical lesson, although I know you're tired, everybody's tired of my history. I got beat up like anything on Turnpike Ave when we went to the 2-lane. I got beat up unmercifully, including by one of my best friends, Vern Gorton, when they went from the 4 lanes to 3 lanes going down to his office. Because he said, I'm gonna be behind every old person in the state, okay? Turned out he was right. I am saying it is my firm conviction that if we do not agree to this, then at the public hearing, it will be voted down by Middletown and it will no longer be in a picture. Now, if we want to, we can adopt this, send it up to DOT, because guess what? They already told us we're 2 years down the line. So it won't interfere with anything they're doing and they won't get mad at us.
You want to bet? I've been biting my tongue for a while, so I'll jump in.
You have been, and you
Yes.
have been very good, but you're bleeding.
If Middletown were to say, we want to do a road diet and RIDOT turns back around and says, we want to do a holistic look of all of East Main Road about a road diet, you can kiss paving East Main Road this summer goodbye. So that's another, you can kiss paving East Main Road in Middletown, which is their plan. When they said Portsmouth, Pound Sand, we're going to go to Middletown. That's the section they were going to do. So it might work out in our favor where they turn back around and say, okay, well, Middletown doesn't want to do East Main Road because they want to study a road diet. So we'll do Sprague Street and West Main Road now. It might work out in our favor. I think the traffic counts are way too high for a road diet. I agree with you that it slows traffic down sometimes. I would disagree with you that those people who weave in and out of traffic are still going to do it. They do it to me all the time on Bristol Ferry. That's where I live off of. It's scary to see how fast some people go through that middle lane.
I think that these are the kinds of questions that'll be answered in that
Individuals
process.
who wanted to
Oh.
speak. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tom Welch. I live at 5. All right.
Thank you.
How's that?
Much better.
Tom Welch. I live at 536 Mitchell's Lane in Middletown. I am on the town council in Middletown. I'm here tonight to give you my opinion, not that of the entire council. My hope is that the information that we have discussed and the questions that we've listened to will help you in your decision-making process. To make, and Barry already touched on this, to make the best decision on any matter, whether it's a household, a committee, or a council, you need as much good information as you can get to make the best decision. So that's why I'm here. I am in favor of the road diet. It's the best way that I've seen so far that can help to make East Main Road safer. Just as a little background, I've lived on Mitchell's Lane for the better part of 60 years. And for any of you that are not familiar with Mitchell's Lane, it is the boundary between Middletown and Portsmouth on the east side of East Main Road. I'm also a landscaper. I routinely tow a trailer on East Main Road, so I am intimately aware of the white line that runs just about to the curb, to the curbing, and the trees and the poles that are waiting to take off my passenger side mirror. And that's why I understand why the big trucks a lot of times will ride in the left-hand lane. It's actually safer for everybody, except for those that decide that they can't wait and try to squeeze by on the right, which is certainly not a good situation. I'm sure everyone, and we've talked about this, encountered a bicyclist on East Main, and it's very difficult to get around him because the speed differential is there and you're looking for a hole in the left lane trying to get around him. So the road diet will give them space, which will make the whole thing more safe. And people have spoken about this too, taking a left on East Main Road. I live on Mitchell's, like I said, and while I'm waiting to go left, looking for a gap in the traffic, you're constantly looking in your rear view mirror, waiting to get rear-ended. Certainly not comfortable. East Main Road is 42 feet wide. At least that's what we're being told, 4 10-foot lanes, right? The Department of Transportation Highway Design Manual specifies a minimum of 11 feet for travel lanes. Some time ago, though I've been unable to pinpoint exactly when, this discrepancy was raised by the state, but both Middletown and Portsmouth chose to stay with a 10-foot lane. And in this world of liability paranoia, I'll call it. I find that, I can't believe that this isn't a bigger issue. Then one of the things that was brought up with us was tractors, right? Because we got the nursery, tractors moving up and down the road. What about the tractors? Well, if, I'm sure you've all lived here long enough that you get behind a tractor and it's towing an implement. And even though the tractor is hugging the curb, the implement, the harrow or the seeder or whatever it is halfway out in the left-hand lane. The only way that you can get around him, because he's going 18 or maybe 20, is to look for a gap on the other side, cross into oncoming traffic to get around him. Certainly not safe. So the road diet, you get 3 11-foot lanes, which leaves 9 feet to split up on either side for bike travel. So now if that tractor stays in the exact same position, he's got 4.5 feet of bike lane plus 11 feet of travel lane. And anybody that has to go around has a middle lane and safely go around without going on oncoming traffic. I also spent 25 years in the Newport Fire Department. And you can imagine trying to respond to an emergency call out of headquarters, which is, at Cardians Field, America's Cup Ave, summertime, doesn't matter, day, night, weekend, weekday. A lot of people don't understand that you're supposed to pull to the right, which then creates a problem for the apparatus. And sometimes you either split the lanes, you go up on the median, or you go into the oncoming travel lane. If we had a road diet on East Main Road, it would be custom made for emergency vehicles, 11 feet right down the middle. And the only person that's in your way is possibly someone turning left or turning left. That's the only people. The rest of the way, it's a straight shot. It couldn't be any better. Now, obviously, Middletown and Portsmouth share East Main Road. Lion's share is here with you guys. You already have a great transition at the base of Quaker Hill. We have a reasonable transition space at Wyatt Road. It doesn't make any sense to me, as everybody's discussed here, to implement 3 lanes in one town and not in the other. And maybe that's not even our decision. The Department of Transportation is going to decide that for us. But the best scenario would be to go forth with both communities together. Would it be great if we could widen the road? Of course. If that's a monumental task, I'm never going to see that. The time to make the changes now, in conjunction with the state's scheduled paving project, and I hope that we can take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to express my opinion.
Thank you.
Peter Roberts, 80 Mount Avenue. I want to bring up the fact that if you take these lanes off this road, traffic will be there for hours. Because coming up this hill, that one lane is backed up all the way up this hill. The other lane goes on East Main Road. But what's going to go on Turnpike Ave? That will take forever. This line will go all the way back to Middletown. This needs the lanes it has. And what you need to do is widen these lanes. And not once has this town council stood up and told the state to do it. You have not done it. You lack what it takes. And now imagine all the way from Middletown, 1 lane each direction. You got to be kidding me. You can't understand what problem that will be. And many times on East Main Road, I'm driving along and people are right on my tail, enough that I cannot see their license plate. And that's what they do because you're doing the speed limit. And then they'll floor it and pass me. At least 40 or 50 cars have done that because they don't have another lane. As nice as this seems, it's dangerous. And bicycles, you put bicycle lanes over to the side, nowhere near the road. Have the sidewalk and then the bicycle lanes. And most places, you're not going to be able to do that because you're going to have to move stone walls. And who's going to do that? And if you go places like Providence and other cities, they have literally put it all in the way of traffic. You really want that on this island? Now you go down the bottom of this hill where they did the 1 lane. Well, that doesn't make any difference there because most of that traffic when it goes down this hill is going Turnpike. It's not going East Main Road. So it doesn't make as much problem as it will make on this road to Middletown. Please, think about this, really think about it.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
Tom Grieve, 110 Thayer Drive. I'd like to read 4 sentences from the East Main Road Safety Assessment. The crash. I'll get closer. The crash, the Crash Modification Factor Clearinghouse, that's a division of the Federal Highway Administration, provides a crash modification factor for road dieting, converting 4-lane undivided roads into 2 lanes with a turning lane. The high volumes on East Main Road should be considered since there are approximately 24,800 vehicles per day that travel on East Main Road. This high volume along East Main Road approaches the maximum traffic volume of 28,500 recommended by the Crash Modification Factor Clearinghouse. You should know that the 24,800 comes from a 2000 report, which was just after COVID. Traffic was nothing like it is today. RIDOT studied the feasibility of a road diet along East Main Road and determined that it is not feasible due to traffic impacts. This recommendation to not install a road diet was presented by RIDOT in August 2020 at a public town council meeting. I've got 3 things that I want you to hear from that report. Between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m. from Stubtoe Lane to Turnpike, only 65% of vehicles could be processed with a satisfactory level of service under a road diet. Side street traffic would have difficulty entering the road. Vehicles would relocate to West Main Road. My aside, West Main Road has more traffic, more accidents, and more fatal accidents than East Main Road. So you're going to push traffic into a much more dangerous situation with a road diet on East Main Road. Thank you.
Mr. Vice President, if I
Please,
may, just,
Mr. Hamilton.
I'm just going to read something that is a comment that I don't know if everybody saw or can see, but the comment was made, wouldn't it be wonderful if Portsmouth could lead on this road diet initiative?
If you could just speak up, Mr. Hamilton.
Driving down East Main Road is terrifying and dangerous. Right now, hundreds of accidents happen on the road each year. The worst that can happen with the road diet is traffic might slow. The speed limit on the road is technically 35, but people routinely drive 50 or faster. That's my editorial. This is a no-brainer. The road diet comes with no cost, because it'll happen in conjunction with repaving East Main Road. And that's from Ms. Joanna Dietz of Brownell Lane. The only thing I would disagree with, the cost is time. Because if they're going to do the entire thing, they've already told us that they're not doing our portion of East Main Road. So we'd be kicking the can down the road another few years if you were looking to do a road diet at a minimum.
Ms. Abbott?
No, I think Senator DePalma maybe had some
Senator
remarks.
DePalma. I just saw your light go on.
Is this loud enough, Chuck? So Senator, good to see you. Judge, good to see you. Now Counselor, good to see you. Yes, I don't represent Portsmouth, but we represent Aquidneck Island. When we're up at the center, in the Senate, by Senator Ujafusa, myself and Senator Royer, along with the reps, we represent Aquidneck Island. While we represent the cities and towns from whom we're elected, we represent Aquidneck Island as Senator Levesque. So I'm Lou DePalma. I'm not from Portsmouth. I'm from Middletown. 24 Sale Court in Middletown, the senator for District 12, which is all of Middletown, all of Little Compton, Southern Tiverton, and the northeast corner of Newport, just for the record. And as I think Councilman Hamilton indicated, or Councilman Gleason talked about Route 136.
in Bristol and Warren. So one should not expect that it would be a 2 lanes and a center turning lane the entire way. The majority of it would be that. So if you drive up Route 136 in Bristol and Warren, it's a menagerie of things. Some places it's 5 lanes because they have 2 lanes plus a center turn lane where they've expanded it. Other places where there's 2 lanes and there's 1 lane in the middle, similar to I think they had before 10-foot roadways. But anyone knows me knows I'm an engineer. To me, it's facts and data. That guides your decision. Why should a road diet be considered? And I think Councilor Hamilton just read, I think an exemplary comment from one of the folks online. It's all about safety. If it's not for safety, it's not worth doing. At the end of the day, it's a safety issue. As Barry so aptly indicated, and you can go back, I can send you the link. I'm sure you probably already have it from Federal Highway, the desk reference between 19 and 47% reduction. 19 to 47% reduction. That's a big range. That's a big deviation there, reduction in crashes where road diets have been implemented. Are they appropriate everywhere? As Councilman Glee said, they're not appropriate everywhere. Will they bring speeds down to where they probably need to be? Yes, as a gentleman just spoke, I'm not gonna pass them. I'm driving behind him. I'm gonna get there. Over the last, I've been working at Raytheon. I lived in Middletown, except for Newport for almost 2 years. I've driven West Main Road for 41 years, 8 months, and 6 days now. I counted it because I had it up when I was here. As part of that, for almost about 40 years and 2 months, Valley Road, East Main, or West Main, or just straight West Main, because I've always lived off of West Main. For the last 5 or 6 months, what have I done? Valley Road, purposely drive up East Main, down Oliphant, up Jepson, as was talked about, or back road, up to Union. I got stuck behind a couple of Portsmouth middle school buses, so I timed my time a little less. And how much longer did it take? 3 minutes. What do I do when I come home from the State House at night at 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11? I come the same way. West Main, I'm gonna come down Union, I'm gonna come down Jepson. It's a strange thing at nighttime with the lights on coming down Jepson. You get the Oliphant, and how much longer does it take? 3 or 4 more minutes. As Barry indicated, and based on the article, what was referenced earlier from the VHB memo that you referenced earlier from RIDOT, they're in the process of model being updated based on new data that's been happening. And in fact, talking with DOT today, as Senator Levesque will know and Senator DeFruso knows, we talk with DOT and all directors and departments on a very regular basis. They're in the process now of providing some additional data because one of the anomalies looked at it was backup on Wyatt Road or Turner Road. It's like, it doesn't make sense. So we're getting more data. That's going to be put into the model. And I realize and appreciate models aren't real life, but models seek to approximate real life to help you make decisions about it. With regards to what does this mean? This is paint on the road. So even in the conversation with, it's going to be the council decision. Councilor Welch and the rest of the council will decide it, have a public hearing Monday night. Our job to help influence and just help DOT. In fact, DOT is coming in front of us tomorrow night. As the chair of the Senate Finance Committee, we have DOT and RIPTA coming tomorrow night. Now, will we talk about this? We might, but at the end of the day, it's paint on the road. We even said you could even do this today if you chose to. I'm a big Seinfeld fan. We might remember Kramer going out and painting the road, making it wider lanes, making it very robust lanes. Well, we're not talking about that, but it's paint on the road as a temporary kind of thing to see, does this work or not work? So we're not talking about major construction. We're not talking about widening the roads. Love the roads to be widened. I think I'm going to be around another 42 plus years. And it ain't going to happen in those 42 years, just now. As somebody mentioned about moving stone walls and utilities and everything else, we'd like that to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's concern about business. Will people move from East Main to West Main so the East Main Road businesses won't get service? I think it might be the other way around. Folks driving West Main, they come to East Main because it's safer. With that, I encourage you to consider this. At the end of the day, you folks are in charge. You make the decisions. It's about facts. It's about data. And at the end of the day, if it's not going to impact safety and make safety better, then you just don't do it, right? But you represent the thousands of folks in Portsmouth, just like Councilor Welch represents the thousands of folks in Middletown, how best to move forward with this to provide a safe travel for our residents. And obviously when folks drive here in the summertime, the thousands that drive down our roads, while we're concerned about those, it's about our residents that we're concerned about and how we do this holistically. If we think this is as good as it can get, I'd ask us to think differently.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator, before you leave, just interestingly enough, we asked for paint on the road 3 years ago and they wouldn't do it because of the traffic counts.
Right.
That was our request. Hey, before you do this, let's try it.
Yep.
As a 2 or 3 year trial. Now it's gonna be 5 or 6 or 10, who knows?
Mhm.
But let's try it for a couple of years before we do the full repaving. Just repaint the lines and see how it works. And they said no. So
Counselor, I'm not gonna disagree that didn't happen. I think part of the challenge, like I said, even with what they did, because we have some of the studies that they did last summer and working with, as Barry indicated, with Rhode Island, which is a phenomenal resource. So Counselor, thanks for bringing that resolution forward. We're able to bring back and say with Tool, we can do the analysis for you, DOT, and DOT, we're gonna give it back to you. We need you, 'cause at the end of the day, the Rhode Island Department of Transportation is the wherewithal of what gets done. They implement what you choose to do. But it's gotta be based on facts, it's gotta be based on data, and the engineers that work for the state will be determining it, not you, me, or anyone else that we think is a good engineer or a good person who does simulation. It's the state looking at it and saying to our engineers, is this the right thing to do? Thumbs up, or thumbs down? Gotta look at that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator, Mr. Levesque.
Senator, while you're always welcome here, I do want to say, I think we have 3 people from Middletown, and that's at least one over our quota.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
You know,
Next
one of
time
you's
I will,
gonna have to stay home.
we'll stay in my car before I come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Larry Fitzmaurice, 50 Kristen Court. And I welcome my friends from Middletown here when I speak down there, which is very occasionally. They're always courteous to me, so glad to see we are courteous to them. I don't think the council should be rushed into this judgment. I point to history a little bit. And that is many years ago, and it was either the 90s or the 80s. I was here when it was done, and I remember hearing about it on the radio. But the governments of the town of Portsmouth and Middletown, as I understand it, declined to connect Route 24 and the Newport Bridge. When we did that, our areas that would have been used for the highway were potato fields. And so it would have been cheaper then. They're now houses. So that's beyond our reach. I do that. I give this as an example of these decisions sometimes are irretrievable. We can make these decisions and we can't get them back. That's one we couldn't get back. If we'd have made the right one there, we would have had the relief we needed for our West Main and East Main Road. I will point out that we've talked a lot about hazard on East Main Road, but the data shows us that there are more accidents on West Main Road in Portsmouth than there are in East Main Road. I'm skipping over some things because we already heard about the Department of Transportation. They told us it wouldn't work. They didn't think it would work if they did a road diet here. I just mentioned that in passing. The problem is traffic density, and I think it's not easy to calculate because I've tried to make a spreadsheet and failed. But at any rate, there are 3 factors, main factors. One is the number of lanes. The other one is the number of vehicles traveling. And the third is the speed they use. That's the numbers that give you how many vehicles you have in your system. And the system would be from the border with Middletown to the traffic light in front of Clements. So if we got them all to drive at 3 times the speed, they would be lots fewer cars on the road. If we slow them down, there's going to be more cars. If we close 50% of the northbound lane during the commute period, we're going to double the number of cars in that one lane. I think the mathematics are clear. And we already have problems with that thing backing up now with 2 lanes. And anytime and during the commute period, that one of the lanes northbound down Quaker Hill is blocked, it backs all the way up to here, almost within minutes. I've seen it happen. I think all of us have seen it happen. So traffic density is the problem. And if we want to reduce the lanes, it's not going to reduce the number of vehicles. If we want to slow them down, it will increase the number of vehicles in the road system. And it's going to go to gridlock. And once this thing gets started, I don't know how we reverse that decision, but I guess it's reversible. But I wouldn't count on it, because in the end, the State Department of Transportation is going to make the decision. Are we going to speak about the bond that's on the agenda?
Bond?
Yep. There's a letter from the 3 town administrators up to Mr. Abney, the chairman of the House.
So that,
Committee on-
if I may, that agenda item had a joint letter of support referring to that bill.
That was the previous agenda.
But the action we took had nothing to do with that
Well, it's on.
letter or
it's
that
attachment
bond
here.
issue, but had to do with the Ride Island bike plan.
No.
And we've moved on from that.
I would like to speak to it because it's on the agenda.
But
For
we're not gonna, we can't take.
new business too.
New business too has to do with the road diet. This is not,
Well, maybe I made a mistake.
we're not taking any action. We did not take any action on it in any event.
We did.
We-
Send a letter supporting it.
Yes.
you supported the
Yes.
federal bond.
Let me make it I'll make my remarks very quickly. It recommends adding to the ballot in November a bond for $25 million to do bike paths. Rhode Island, according to the Tax Foundation, has the highest, 3rd highest bond liability per capita of any state in the union. Behind Massachusetts and Alaska, we are 3rd. And per capita obligation for the taxes, right? Because it's
If I may,
Mr.
I'm gonna
President,
call a
I
point,
want to do a point of order.
and I recognize.
It's not a point of order.
Yes, excuse me, Mr.
We're not talking about
Yes.
bond issues
The
here.
point of order is recognized for clarity for the members of the public who may be listening. The reference to a bill that had a reference to a bond question was back up to an earlier item. The only action this council took in relationship to that item was to approve a resolution. That resolution does not reference a bond, makes no reference to the state law that you're referring to that's being proposed. The bond, no, I'm looking at it right now. There's no reference to the bond in the
We
resolution.
also, my motion included the letter.
The motion included the letter, right?
Oh, that would be different. Did the motion include the letter? I thought it was just on the resolution.
I believe Chuck's motion included the letter.
We're still way out of field here, Mr. Fitzmaurice. We're not talking
And
about
I'm,
American taxes,
and I am,
We can
as,
back- yeah.
as chair, I am ruling that the point of order is recognized and this particular issue. If we could bring it back to new business item number 2 on the road diet, Mr. Rader.
All right, so for the record, you won't let me speak on this matter.
That's correct, Mr. Fitzmaurice, because you
Thank
were
you.
out of order.
Just a clarification. What Mr. Fitzmaurice is referring to is a joint letter. It has my name on it. I had nothing to do with the drafting of this. However, when the agenda was published on Thursday, this did appear under NB2, New Business 2. It was corrected Friday morning to be under New Business 1. So I think that's the source of the confusion.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Rader.
Oh, no, we don't need anything more.
Okay. Let me say only that the agenda I have has a thing on number 2.
Thank you.
Council President, members of the council, a lot of great comments today about this, the road diet. I'm in favor of road diets. Just a couple of things that if we do put in front of the state, DOT, if we can get a traffic count on our local roads, because a lot of people are gonna be using our local roads, if that road diet does go through. And I don't want to try to increase too much more traffic on Middle Road, Sandy Point, Wapping Road, stuff like that. I just want to just put that point out to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I add some remarks just
Please.
based on the last comments that we did have? If you, well, the Ride Island plan does have a handy little page, describing what road diets are, not necessarily making a recommendation one way or another, but just talking about the benefits of it. I think that's a good reference. Yes, there was a road safety assessment done in 2020. The recommendation at the time was not to do a road diet. I believe there are updated traffic counts that contradict what was used in that report. There's also a couple specific things or traffic patterns on East Main Road that weren't accounted for in the model. To address your question, I think, the model does look at all the road and all the roads going in and out of it. So I think, we can leave it to the experts to update the models, look at the data, systematically and come to us with good data-driven solutions that will work for East Main Road. The way that I see it, we have 3 options with East Main Road. There's the do nothing option, which is that we live with a substandard 4-lane road, which by any metric of road design does not meet any kind of guidelines for road safety or proper road design. And I think we all mostly agree with that. 2, to widen the road, which a lot of us have already referred to as, it's not going to happen in my lifetime. There's just a lot of barriers to that. Or 3, there's the option to do the road diet and prioritize the safety of the people driving on that road. And as a counselor and resident of the town of Portsmouth, I do think it is, if there's any data being presented to us that justifies a reconsideration of a road diet for Portsmouth, I think it is our responsibility to consider it and prioritize the safety of our residents.
Mr. President, I'm going to do this in the form of a motion, Councilwoman. Perhaps you could tell me if it's appropriate. I move that we adopt as a philosophy of the town of Portsmouth, the road diet that has been presented to us. And upon its adoption, we let the community of Newport and Middletown and Newport know that we have done so.
Yes, I like the idea of adopting it as a philosophy and then Ride Out will come to us with their.
We have a motion and a second.
And let me make, I'm sorry, David. Let me make one quick comment about it. The DOT, and I think Senator De Palma, you'll agree with me, the DOT are road engineers. They're not gonna say, go ahead and do something when they know it's perhaps not a great idea. That's not the way they operate. They would probably be looking at East Main Road from a standard that said, what we need here is a wider 4-lane road. And they are running into intractable town, Portsmouth and Middletown that said, we ain't gonna do it. Mr. Roberts, you are 100% right. We ain't gonna do it. All right. So they keep trying to force us to do it and we keep saying we ain't gonna do it. So we're between a rock and a bad road place. And I say we adopt the diet.
There's a motion on the floor. Mr. Gleason.
Yes, thank you.
I will second the motion.
So that we've said that Ride Out as the experts, right? The Ride Out has sent their letter to Sean Brown, town of Middletown's administrator, on March 14th, saying there's a misunderstanding regarding the Rhode Island Department of Transportation's involvement with any road diet proposal on East Main Road. Just for clarification, we provided at the request from the town a memorandum from VHB dated July 28, 2023 that included the pros and cons to consider regarding road diet on East Main Road, north of Wyatt in the town of Middletown. At no point in the memorandum or through discussions with the town was a road diet recommended by VHB or RIDOT. We have subsequently requested that VHB update their memo to include a conclusion and recommendation section. RIDOT has concerns about implementing a road diet on East Main Road based on the information provided in the memorandums. They're the experts. We should be gathering more information. We should not be making a decision. The presentation today shows open questions. How will it impact speeds and traffic congestions? Will traffic be diverted to West Main? We don't have all the answers to that. Will this put people riding bicycles in danger? I mean, we're basically doing this for bicycles. And the only way we're going to keep bicyclists safe is off the road, you know, with a divided lane. And here we are grasping for some additional width on East Main Road. I contacted two counselors in Middletown. One didn't return my email, and I suggested that they have the floor with RIDOT right now. We don't have any conversations going on with RIDOT, you know, right now, but you folks in Middletown do. With the town of Portsmouth, the question was raised. Do you think that the road should be widened? Should we ask for 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet? We're not going to get 12 feet. But if you go down the west side of East Main Road, that's the side you can expand on. The poles for the most part are already pushed back, you know? And the stone walls are not exaggerated as they are on the east side of East Main Road. I have not heard back from them, but together with us, my initial thoughts were that Middletown and Portsmouth should be asking them to widen the road. You know, taking this answer, we can't do it. That's not right. We can put it off for another year. During that time, let's spray paint the road. Let's put something on the road right now in Middletown and see what this does to our traffic. You know, we are looking at a lot of variables that we're assuming here. We're not engineers, as you say, that work for the Department of Transportation, and for whatever reason, they've balked. But together with Middletown, we should be asking these questions. If we're going to force this thing through tonight, which I will not support, we should hear from other people. We have our own chief of police here. Let's get his input. Do you really want to go and hear all this tonight to try and make a decision? Or should we wait to get more answers from what's happening in Middletown?
We're not putting
Okay?
shovels in the ground tomorrow.
We're making a statement that says
For
we
what?
want a road diet.
And let me tell you.
We're going to have, excuse me, I have the floor. If we get 1,000 bicycles on East Main Road, which would be a great thing, what percentage of 1,000 replaces 25,000 cars per day? Who's paying the price for that 1,000 bicycles? Are we going to get 1,000? Are we going to get 500?
We're gonna have people change
50,
their habit.
100?
But let me just tell you, Middletown,
I would like to get the police chief to weigh in on his thoughts on road diet.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Mr. Levesque.
Middletown's Portsmouth and Middletown grew up different, but most of the road from what we used to call 2 Mile Corner, there's a very constructed part, and then you get out to Turner and Wyatt and everything. You get to the Rhode Island nurseries, you get to a very easily widened area for the most part, still more or less rural. Once you hit Portsmouth, you get an entirely different type of road. It is a neighborhood road. It is a road with a bunch of cuts in it. Okay, so testing it on Middletown probably would work for us because 4 lanes, they might be able to do it. And then you have the old Bristol Warren thing where it narrows down quickly to 2. As a political matter, Mr. Gleason, we would never survive proposing to this town to widen that road to the length that would be required by the National Road Administration. We would not survive. There would be 7 new council persons here to rescind that order. And I know that from a lifetime, and you should know it.
We have a 38-foot wide road that's substandard. We should be pushing for something wider than exists today. With the road diet or not.
If I may.
But I would like to just comment, based on what you've said regarding Portsmouth roads, there was something I overlooked here. That basically says, RIDOT has said it will be very difficult to pull out of unsignalized side streets and driveways due to significantly less gaps in traffic with a road diet. That is exactly what you're going to have in Portsmouth. So
Thank you,
again,
Mr. Abbott.
Mr. Vice President, if we could hear from the police chief on his,
I don't know if the police chief has particular thoughts on it, but if you do, Chief Peters. Happy to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, members of the council. The police department has always had a history of supporting, examining. The police department always has a history, or has had a history of supporting, examining a road diet. So we have all going all the way back to Chief Seal. We've put that forward. We believe, as it was brought up several times tonight, that does make the road safe. That studies show that. But what we've seen from the reports that came out from DOT, which we're very concerned about, is it appropriate? Is there enough capacity, or is there for the roads for the vehicles to travel over? 24,000, I believe, 800 vehicles a day. Is that appropriate? The two things that we've had in the past that have been barriers to that, one has been the DOT report that says the vehicles per day, and the other has been public support. There hasn't been in the past public support behind this. When Chief Seal brought this forward, I believe in the early 2000s, but I don't know if the times have changed. But there's no question that we support as a police department in theory, because the 4 that we have in place now have worked. Upper East Main Road has been successful. Turnpike has been successful. Bristol Ferry Road has been successful. And also Upper West Main Road that was changed has been successful. So since my time here in the police department, those have all changed. I remember that there were history where people were, like was discussed here tonight, that people were upset. They didn't want that change, but that has been a huge success. And we can say that it has been a huge success as far as reducing crashes. So that's why we've always been for examining East Main Road and seeing what can happen. But like you said, we need the engineers. We work closely with Department of Highway Safety, DOT, and I wouldn't want to endorse something that DOT said was not the right thing to do, because we're not experts. We can just tell by our experience here in the town, but we need them to support it, and that's kind of police department's position on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Chief.
Chief.
can I
That
ask
was
a
very
question,
helpful.
Chief? When, do you recall when we did the road diets on those specific roads, that they fell into the parameters recommended by the state for traffic vehicles per day?
Yes, yeah. It's
Thank
my
you.
understanding.
Chief, could I ask you a question? There has been testimony tonight that West Main Road has had more fatal accidents than East Main Road. Is that a fair statement?
I'm not prepared to give that answer tonight. I will say that, in my opinion, the accidents are more serious on West Main Road. due to
Is
the
West
speed.
Main Road designed for the standards that we were talking that DOT wants to have on East Main Road? The expanded with the 12-foot lanes?
They're totally different roadways, in my opinion, as far as the West Main Road is
But it's a
wider.
very wide road. It's
Correct.
it's a normal road as
Correct.
opposed to East Main.
That's correct. There's a little
Thank
room
you.
for error on East Main Road.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief Peters, very much. Ms. Hitchin. Town plan, now you have to take it off.
I just want to add one more comment and one more plan that I am working on, which started back in September 2022 when the town of Portsmouth signed on to be one of the communities in Rhode Island to participate in RIPTA's Safe Streets and Roads for All Action Plan, which was when RIPTA sought $5 million in federal funds, coupled with a $1.25 million match from Rhode Island's capital program. 32 of the 39 communities in town, in the state, signed on to do this, and I believe Middletown and Newport were also involved with successfully obtaining this RIPTA grant. I talked with it's you. I feel like I'm in church.
A ringing noise.
I know I'm not in church. RIPTA's long-range planner recently reached out to me in regards to the next steps for this project and scope and timeline. And essentially, RIPTA hired AECOM engineers and working with some smaller subcontractors, which I think is with Tool Design. They're going to be collecting crash data, performing multiple types of data analysis for both state and town roads. and collecting all sorts of data from our comp plans, STIP programs, Aquidneck Island transportation studies, all different bike mobility plans in order to make a recommendation for safety improvements on our roads. And that will be over the course of the next year. So I just want everybody to know that there'll also be a public engagement process, and these aren't sexy type of projects, but I definitely suggest that when we have these public engagement meetings, that people come out and definitely talk about them so we can have a good plan when it comes out in a year. So I just want to include that, that maybe it might not be a good time to make any sort of formal opinion or recommendation tonight, but see what this data comes out with in a year.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think we can wait a year, given the other things in play here.
I'm gonna reiterate. And I don't know if Mr. Mitchell would agree with me. I don't think he wanted to box his counsel in, but I don't think they would be out here if they didn't think this was kind of important. And as I understand it, they got an April 15th date. So we have, in fact, I think, one chance, one time. We either do it or we forget it. Okay, and we can have all the public hearings we want. And I'll tell you what, why don't we have one where we're gonna widen East Main Road? And then we can not only have it, we'll have to have it with televisions in the gym and whatever, because that will be big. I say we go ahead. It's just an approval of a concept. All right, we're not thumbing our noses at DOT. We're not saying we know engineering better than they are. But maybe this is the beginning of actually getting something that we actually want on East Main Road, as opposed to something shoved down our throat.
Thank you, Ms. Levesque.
All right, so we do have a motion and a
We
second.
do have a motion
Just for the record,
to support this.
I'd like to make
in-
one
I just would like to reiterate, and then I'll let you have the floor, that there is a motion to support this in concept. I think you said in philosophy.
Philosophical.
And a second, Mr. Gleason.
Yeah, I would just like to state, this gentleman here, there's one counselor here from Middletown. We have one opinion here, not the opinion I heard from the council that I spoke to. So I don't think it's fair to say that they're here making a decision because it's important that he's here, so it must be the right thing to say.
I didn't say that. Mr. Gleason, I said there's one here. I believe.
Sorry,
he's
that's what I
here
heard.
For a reason. I didn't say, matter of fact, if his counsel was doing what he wanted him
Move
to.
the question.
Oh, I have the floor,
Excuse me,
Mr.
Mr.
Gleason,
Levesque has the floor.
but I'm speculating. I'm not even looking at him to determine whether I'm accurate. I just think he might not be here. If I was in that situation, I was in Middletown, I'd be saying, help me with my friends in Portsmouth, because they don't agree with me.
There is a motion and a second on the floor. Any further comment?
Let's review the motion in a
All
second,
the-
please.
I'm sorry?
Can we,
It's a motion, please.
yeah, can we just reiterate the motion one? And then I do have one question. How does a philosophy get conveyed?
That we support in concept might be a better phrasing.
And I believe it gets conveyed like all good philosophy by mail.
No, well, we don't have time for that. Mr. Rayner, can a philosophy be conveyed by you via email or a phone call, please?
Yes, we can merely state in the letter that we support the philosophy of a road diet. I think they'll understand
So
what we're
that
saying.
is the
Okay.
motion. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay,
Motion passes 4.
Point of order.
put a
I
railroad
would-
alongside it too.
I would prefer that a correspondence goes to the president of the Middletown Town Council. Mr. Brown has already indicated his feelings on this. And I don't want you to ruin your voice any more than it's already been ruined, Mr. Rayner, because you should be home in bed.
That wasn't part of the motion.
Mr.
right.
President, welcome back. Ms. Abbott, I understand you are recusing from this
I
next
am.
item? Bye.
Don't
Hey,
go-
I'm getting suspicious.
Don't go far.
don't go far.
Don't go far. This won't take long.
So moved.
That was,
Seconded.
that was entertaining.
I may be the only one here that went to St. Philomena's.
Next item is new
Take care,
business
Senator.
number 3. Take care. It's a request approval for the 8th grade class at St. Philomena School to have a campfire at Sandy Point Beach on June 6th from 2 p.m. to sunset.
Second, first, make the motion.
Seconded.
Oh, don't blow it. You've got our vote.
Would you like me to explain my request?
Not until you turn your microphone on.
Oh, thank you. Has the fire department rendered an opinion on this?
Yes, Ms. Abbott did talk to Chief Ford. Our ordinance does require that the owner of the property grant the permission, which is why we're taking this route.
And that's the extent of any.
He's confident that we will police the area. and
Thank
that
you.
It'll be done safely.
This isn't going to turn into one of those all-night sessions with drinking and smoking and carrying on.
With middle schoolers? No.
Well, you never-
We do have a motion.
No, we don't, not yet, because I did
Well,
a discrete reference to the conflict of interest requirements. If somebody is in fact required to recuse themselves, which I'm assuming has happened, they are not actually supposed to stay in the room.
well, no, that's not.
No, I can still present as a member of the public.
If it's her organization presenting it, she can act on behalf of the organization.
Why the hell have conflict rules then?
I don't know, I'm just telling you what I've learned from Mr. Grant.
Okay. I didn't really want you to leave.
But to the point that would someone make a motion?
I thought.
I thought Mr. Levesque did, and Dr. Ryan.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the council?
I don't know, you still running the meeting or is the president?
Good point.
He's power crazy.
I was wondering the same thing.
I was stuck in the right.
Could be
Kevin
replaced.
wasn't speaking up. I'm just thinking we could just take.
Shock and awe, shock and awe.
I can answer any questions if there are any.
So we have a motion and a second
you, Kim.
to approve the use of, well, Sandy Point Beach for a bonfire. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Specifically, it's a camp.
Yeah, a camp.
Not a bonfire.
Sorry.
Big difference.
Yes.
You don't
Hey,
trust
It's
people
a
immediately
it's a big
to
s'mores
talk
event,
about
all
you.
right?
John Vitt is not involved in this fire.
Thank you.
I stand corrected. Campfire.
Yes.
The
All right.
flames will not be visible from space.
Let's move on to new business number 4. It's a request approval of a resolution in support for a cleaner, greener Rhode Island. Brandon?
Mr. President, can I move that we accept and approve the resolution so that Mr. Reyna does not have to strain his voice any further?
Too late.
Second.
That's very good.
We have a-
Get sympathy.
We have a,
That's how I sounded when I didn't want to go to school.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have correspondence.
Mr. President, move that they all be received and placed on file.
Second.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to bring 7 forward for the next meeting, please.
Okay.
Resolutions by Hopkinton.
All A through H.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
So we'll,
Mr. Gleason, you are asking to remove G? Is that what it is?
7.
Seven. Item number
Seven
7.
in its entirety from it,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
I move the other correspondence be received and placed on file, and that 7 be put on our next agenda.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Point of order, can I ask that it be under Mr. Gleason's name, not mine?
Yep.
Sure. Okay, future meetings. Beginning April 22nd is when we begin budget week. So that's our regular Monday meeting. Then April 22nd, 23rd, and if needed, April 25th, followed by May 13th.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Dr. Ryan, could you prescribe something for our town administrator?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah.